Danny Smith on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
Here on West Arts Drive Time with me, Danny Smith. We have live in the studio our very own lifestyle correspondent, Lisa Pearson. Good afternoon, Lisa.
Hi, Danny.
Hi there. So what are we looking at this month?
Stress.
Okay.
So we were going to look at, stress, what causes it, how do you know if you are stressed or if you're just generally having, a difficult day, and what to do about it.
I think some people actually probably suffer from not understanding what the word actually means. And so they, their definition of stress, like they might say, oh, I'm really stressed today. And they think, no, you're not really stressed today. You're just a bit harassed and a bit disorganised. You're not actually stressed, or, oh, I've got these exams that are tomorrow and I haven't revised yet. That's not stress, that's pressure. Do you agree with that? Do you think
agree,
that people don't actually understand what... So could we start off by actually defining what stress is so people can have a clear idea?
Well, I'm much more looking at stress as in a long-term thing that actually has an effect on you. So it's something where you've got good stress and bad stress, but when stress gets out of hand, you've got that fight or flight response and you end up either over kind of full of adrenaline, constant, or literally shutting down totally because you're so freaked out because you're so stressed.
Sure.
And that's what stress is. So it's kind of in between normal day, everyday life's pressures, you get stress, and then further on from stress, you've then got your depression and other stuff. It's kind of like an in-between place.
Okay. So, right, where are we going to start with this then?
Well, we thought we'd look at what causes it, because I think sometimes people might underestimate where the causes of stress are.
Yeah. I've been told once, because I don't seem to suffer from stress, but I've been told I'm a carrier. I'm not sure what that meant.
I have done. I was an absolute stress donkey when I worked in IT, and I was, when I was in my 20s, I could literally have smoked, nibbled my nails, twirled my hair, typed and drunk alcohol all at the same time, quite happily, with no problem. So I have definitely been there.
Right.
Stress is. People think I'm pretty calm now, but I've actually had a pretty stressful month, so I definitely can relate to this particular subject. So,
Also, I think we are experts at putting up veneers of what we want people to see. So we can, even when we're at our lowest and at our worst, I think that we've all got the strength within us to actually hide that if we want to.
Yeah, I do have that kind of happy face thing, and that whole Bristolian thing we talked about before. I happen to look quite cheery most of the time. Yeah, so I do kind of hide it. Yeah, I must admit.
Not everyone from Bristol looks cheery at the moment. Have you seen Justin Lee Collins recently?
Bless him.
Anyway, we won't dwell on that.
Yes. So. We were talking about stress. Well, of course, the last two times we talked about finances. That's obvious. Your finances being out of control is when it's stressful. It's when it's out of control and you're either panicking and doing nothing about it, or you don't know what to do. So that's quite obvious, I reckon. And I think it's the powerlessness of it.
Yeah, I think feeling helpless is quite a debilitating position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think realistically, people from my background, personal development, they'd be all like, well, it's about your perception and it's about what you do about it. No, actually, there are people who are really quite stuck right now and you feel very powerless and you don't know what to do. So that is very stressful. But there's other things like... physically, if you're ill and you're in pain, this is my eye-opener this last month, is pain is very stressful. Very, very stressful. I've had bad back for 6 months and it just escalated. And so it made me understand the stress that older people are under.
Yeah.
I think, especially. And if you're ill for a long period of time, how stressful that is. And if you've got anything physically kind of challenging you, stopping you from doing the things you want to do, that's very challenging, very stressful.
Right.
But then there's work, obviously. But I think, again, people are underestimating it. Some people love the stress of work, don't they? I came in here today, my stomach's flipping, I'm very nervous. But, I quite like that.
Yeah. But you see, I mean, we were saying this off air, but I wouldn't really necessarily call that stress. I'd say that that's, that's a bit of pressure, isn't it? Because you're feeling that way because you're somewhat nervous about perhaps speaking in front or speaking in a form which can be heard by an awful lot of people, in theory. Also, the nerve, there's the pressure to make sure that you do it right, that you don't say the wrong thing, make a fool of yourself, all those kinds of things. But to me, that's not stress in and of itself. I wouldn't
and
have said.
And it's quite healthy.
Yeah.
When I used to run training courses, the first one was brilliant, the second one would be really good because I'd have that stress. The third one, when I started to relax, that's the one where it would go wrong, and then it would all settle on the fourth one. And but the thing I found with work is you've got overwork, obviously, that's very stressful, long hours, very stressful. But it depends on your personality, because someone like myself who gets bored easy, I might be really busy. If I'm bored, I'm really stressed. If I'm enjoying what I'm doing, it's absolutely fine. Someone else might actually quite like what I would think would be boring.
Yeah.
And they would be chilled and it would be fabulous and the job would be nice and relaxing, and I would literally be tensing up the more bored I got.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember vaguely as a teenager sort of complaining once about having exams coming up and all various things that I had to do that I hadn't done, and it was all my own fault anyway. But, I never saw it quite that way. And having a right old moan about it, I was, I'm so stressed. And then my mum shouting out something like, I'm too busy to be stressed. You try being me for a day. And I thought, actually, I wonder if that's something to that if you keep yourself occupied, you perhaps don't notice some of these things. You just take them in your stride and deal with them.
There is a sense of perspective. I think if you've got something going on in lots of different areas of life, so you've got your work, you've got your kind of money life, you've got your family, you've got social, you've got, health, then probably one thing going wrong isn't going to hurt you. It's when you've been focusing on just a couple, like you work a lot and you don't do much else, and then work goes wrong, that's when it's going to get really stressful. In fact, that's when it's quite dangerous, really. The less balanced your life is, that's when you start to kind of worry about it, I think. And people are at work, people are at home, you've got friends, people are very stressful. And if you hold on to things that have happened to you, that builds stress in the body, I think, as well. So when you've got past pains, past traumas, that sort of thing, that can just literally sit and eat at your brain constantly.
You see, and that's a problem I often have, is I keep going over things and I overanalyze things, and I keep telling myself, "Oh, Danny, let that go now. It doesn't matter anymore." But it's knowing how to do that, which I think can sometimes be, it's very difficult to do. To simply switch off from something, just think, "Oh, well, that's dealt with now."
Yes, and I think that's because we think we're holding on to it because they've done something, and if we let it go, we've let them off the hook. But in actual fact, you have to remember about yourself, really. It's not about them. It's about you being all right. That's the issue.
Sure.
And that's where people come in, because people are telling you what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and that gets very stressful when you're not being you. If you're not being you, and you're not actually doing what you would want to do and what you're loving, then that's, I think, very stressful. Now, in our chats that we've had before, you're quite clear on your decisions about what you do and where you are and why you are there. So that would be why you'd have less stress. You've made a very clear decision and you're very sure about who you are.
Yeah. Oh, and if I'm not confident, I can certainly fake it. So that all helps.
Yeah. But you have made certain decisions, and you've made certain decisions about your job and what you do, and so people who feel that they can't make those decisions, and you start to feel vaguely uneasy inside, because actually you're doing what you should be doing, you're doing what everyone else tells you should be doing, but it's not you, it doesn't suit who you are. Everyone's meant to be different, everyone's meant to be unique, and it's very stressful.
Sure. And I realise that this doesn't work for everyone, but certainly in my life I have found the biggest decisions that I've ever had to make I've made somewhat quickly. I've just decided, I've just done it, and so far to date, I've never regretted any of them by doing that. Decisions to move to a different part of the country because of a job made within a day. I just thought, I want to do that. That sounds like a good idea. Let's go for it. And I suppose I'm just grateful that I have that decisiveness in me.
Yes, and when you get stressed, the problem is you get less decisive, and then everything gets more and more difficult.
Okay. If you just joined us, we're talking with Lisa Pearson, our very own lifestyle correspondent, and this month we're looking at stress. We'll be back with Lisa in just a moment.
92.6 FM.
Danny Smith.
Radio Verulam.
With us in the studio for our regular monthly session, I don't know what we call it, a session feature, whatever, but it's our lifestyle correspondent, Lisa Pearson, and we're looking at stress this month.
Yes, that's right. So we were looking at what makes you stressed, and now we're going to talk about how you know whether you're stressed or not.
Right.
Is it a problem, or is it just normal kind of everyday stuff?
Okay.
And I think Well, we talked about whether it's long term.
Yeah.
I think for sure if it goes on for a long period of time, then that's when you start talking about it being stress and not just a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you know what? It's not that difficult because there'll be a hint. Your family will tell you, your friends will tell you, or your body's going to tell you. Someone's going to tell you that it's kind of going wrong. Either because they're getting grumpy with you, they're reacting to you, or because they'll actually sit you down and go, oi, look, you're a bit stressed, by the way. And your body, well, it will start to cramp up. That's the most obvious sign, I think. Stomach cramps, aches and pains, becoming ill a lot, getting one cold after another cold after another cold. Because the thing about stress is it hits your immune system.
So it's that thing that people often say, oh, I'm feeling a bit run down. That is probably an indicator that, your body's trying to say, pay attention, there's something wrong here.
Yes, your body's always trying to give you warnings, basically. And so when you're not listening to it, it just keeps upping the ante.
Right.
And every time you don't listen, it just ups it a bit more.
Yeah.
It's trying to be helpful. It doesn't always feel that way, but it is actually trying to be helpful. And then if you don't listen to it, it's going to start to affect things like your mental health. So you're going to worry, you're going to have memory problems, you're going to be more indecisive. The more stressed you get, the more difficult it is to make a decision, because you're more like a rabbit in headlights, and your thoughts start to control you. You start to have the inability to tell them to just shut up and go away for a while, and that means that you don't rest either, I think, when your brain's constantly wearing. So it will start to affect your emotions, so you become moody, unable to relax, you'll be isolated, overwhelmed and helpless. And you can see where I said that there's a fine line as to how long you're stressed, as to why it would eventually turn into a depression.
Yeah.
If you let it go too long. That's why it's important to say, do you know what, actually I am a bit stressed, it's worth looking at it now and not leaving it.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it's the sort of thing, if you ignore these signs, you sort of do so at your peril, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose with any health condition, if you ignore the signs, it ain't going to get better on its own.
Yes, like me, obviously, the cobbler who doesn't sort their own shoes out, I knew that I'm a mum, I've had 2 kids, I should be doing all sorts of things to my back. I was doing certain things, I thought I was managing to maintain it, I didn't, it went wrong, it's going wronger.
It's going wronger, there you go, technical term for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's telling me in no uncertain terms that something needs to be sorted out. And so that's the other thing, is you get stressed, you'll probably start to eat worse. You make it worse.
Yeah.
You eat worse, you'll probably go to bed late, not sleep well, drink more alcohol, smoke more. You start to bite your nails, fiddle with things. And often, ironically, you isolate yourself and pull away because, you start to become more introverted.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are good, obvious signs of being stressed. My son is a quite creative, artistic boy.
Okay.
He gets little nervous tics. So he gets a kind of noise.
Right. You have fed him when he's doing that, yeah?
Yeah.
It's not like he's hungry or something.
No, that would be my daughter when she wants attention. She does it on purpose.
Right.
He gets this little kind of nervous tic, which probably is half hay fever, but half nervous as well.
Okay.
It's quite interesting with him. So it's about this good stress versus bad stress. We have to have stress. It's the whole adrenaline thing. You had to run away from the dinosaurs, but now we have no dinosaurs, so we don't tend to actually run away from anything.
Yeah.
So all that adrenaline runs around, the body doesn't know what to do with itself. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I think we'll take another break there now, but those are some of the signs of stress, and interesting there to think that I never thought we'd really be discussing dinosaurs in a feature about stress, but there you go. We'll be back with Lisa Pearson in just a moment.
Danny Smith, he's got the body of an athlete at home in his freezer.
The time now, it's 6.5 minutes to 6 o'clock, and we're looking at stress this month with Lisa Pearson. Letha? What's that about? Lisa Pearson. I get a lisp when I'm stressed. Lisa Pearson, our lifestyle correspondent, is here as well. So, Lisa.
Yes, so we decided that we're stressed, right? So what do you do about it? And my first tip is that to give yourself a fighting chance, first, focus on your body, because if your body's happy, it makes dealing with everything else much, much easier because your emotions are steadier and you've got more energy.
Okay.
So it's not about becoming the next triathlete. Exercise 3 times a week, at least a little bit, a walk, bit of fresh air, something like that.
Aren't you supposed to do something that makes you out of breath for about 20 minutes 3 times a week? Isn't that kind of the advice?
That would be the ideal. That
Yeah.
would be the ideal, but at least doing something.
Yeah.
Basically, get out there. They say 15 minutes a day, a little walk for a bit of fresh air would be really good for you. So, yes, just get out there. And you don't have to spend money, you don't have to go to the gym. Going for a walk would be absolutely fine. Fast walk, you know.
Yeah, nice good
proper-
pace to it.
yes. Eating healthy. I talk about eating healthy. We're going to come back to eating at some point, I think, 1 month. But there's loads on my blog about eating healthily. If anybody wants it, I'll point you to it.
Okay, and give us that blog address quickly.
It's mummywhispererblog.com.
There you go. Okay.
And supplements. I'm a big fan of supplements. I'm a tired mum. I don't get much sleep. I
These are
supplement.
vitamin supplements, not all those extra magazines in your newspaper at the
Yeah,
weekend. Right,
yeah.
okay.
So-
Just wanted to make that clear.
If you're stressed, you particularly want to be looking at probiotics because they're good for the tummy and that helps the stress levels.
Okay.
And those omega oils, you know, you talk to the health food shops, they'll get those for you. That's really good for your concentration. Fantastic, honestly. I can really tell you. The
Right.
probiotics, not the yogurts though, the pills, proper pills.
Okay. I take, I think it's vitamin D every day.
Yes.
Which is the thing, because often we lack that because of the sun in this country.
Yes.
We don't get much sun. And I take vitamin D. And I since it was recommended to me by my doctor earlier this year, it's the one thing I think the doctor has ever told me to take that actually seems to have made a real difference. And
Yes.
it does. It's boosts my energy levels. I do feel a little bit brighter. It's great. And, you know, I'm telling anyone and everyone that will listen, you know, get some vitamin D supplements and
That
take
makes
them.
a lot of sense.
You can't overdose on them. Take as many as you want.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you couldn't overdose on them.
Actually, I'm saying that maybe you can.
Yeah.
Don't,
always
there's no real-
talk to the health food
Yeah.
people and this professionals.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
necessarily listen to me. I can be an idiot, but generally speaking, vitamin D is a really good supplement to take because it makes up for the lack of what we
Sunshine.
get in the sunshine. And also, increasingly, more and more people say that they're getting miserable this time of year because people, you know, the whole, it's sad, isn't it?
Yes.
The seasonal affective disorder, which a few years ago no one had ever heard of, but it makes so much sense. People.
It's
loads
a
of people
very
get it.
real thing. It's
Yeah.
a very real thing, and it's not to be poo-pooed at, definitely.
And it's quite simply a lack of vitamin D.
Yes. Yeah, I remember actually for a while we were getting really free. I was getting real desperate urge for some sunshine, and we had that one last weekend, didn't we? And I
Yeah.
felt loads better after it.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very, very obvious.
Because there's nothing better than going for a nice little walk when it's nice and hot. As long as you can go somewhere and cool off afterwards, you know. So when you feel the sun hitting your skin, it just feels great. No matter how bad a day you're having,
Yeah.
it lifts you a little bit, gives you
Yeah.
a little bit of a boost.
I'd just been to Devon for my brother's wedding. Oh, it was lovely by the seaside, proper sea and sun. It was lovely I know it's October, but it was fab.
Yeah.
Other thing, water. Drink water. I know that we forget, so the way I do it is to drink it when I brush my teeth morning and evening, and when the kids brush their teeth, and when I come in and out of the house. You have a habit and you'll drink a bit more then. Because it's like the car doesn't go without the oil, right? Your body doesn't work without the water.
I was told once by somebody, I went out with this dietitian for a little while, and she was saying that apparently don't laugh at that.
I'm sorry. We were talking about sticky buns earlier on. Yeah.
Anyway, she was telling me, I'll ignore that, that's rude. And she was telling me that when apparently our bodies are so used to ignoring, like, the brain telling us we're thirsty, we confuse that with that we're hungry.
Hungry.
And that one great way of trying to eat less is, if you feel hungry, have a glass of water. And then
Yes.
if you still feel hungry, have something to eat. But
Yes.
often the water will satisfy that urge to have something to eat as well.
Yeah.
So if it's like in the evening and you think to yourself, well, I don't really want to make a snack. I had dinner earlier on, have a glass of water, apparently.
Yeah, I would probably still be hungry, I must admit. But I would definitely drink the water first. Definitely. And the other thing is, I mean, if you think about it, you know, when you think about torture, they would torture you by stopping you from sleeping,
Right, I don't often think about torture, but okay, yeah.
limiting your water. That's
Yeah.
more likely to kill you than anything else. And stopping you from breathing deeply. They'd kind of restrain you.
Yeah. They also mess up, I've read this in the book, they mess up your sleep patterns.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sleep
and
is
try
really
to
important.
disorientate you and make you, close all outdoor windows and things and make you think it's a different time than it actually is, and let you sleep for a little bit and then wake you up and yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of what my daughter does to me. So sleep, really important when you're stressed. You have to just make a pattern, a healthy pattern, and go to bed early and get your sleep pattern back in. And then your body has much more of a chance to help you get over the stress, basically. And then you can start looking at your head. So little things like counting your blessings. I know it's old-fashioned. Count 3 blessings a night. There's bound to be something. You must at least have had a good cup of coffee. you know.
Yeah.
And stop complaining about all the rubbish, because it's not going to make you feel any better. Remember, I talked about going on a diet before of complaining. Go on a diet about complaining about all the stuff you don't want.
Right.
And then write down your problem. Actually,
Okay.
writing down your problem...
Like keep a little journal of problems or something.
Yeah, so you could either just do it the once and then actually work out a solution, or there's a woman called Julia Cameron who recommends you do it every morning. Just write all the rubbish out of your head, and it's really helpful with the stress.
I'd be late for the show if I did that. Anyway, we're going to have to go because the news is coming up. But Lisa, thanks ever so much for coming on the show this afternoon. You can go to our blog to find a summary of what Lisa's talked about. Go to westartsdrivetime.radioverulam.com. We will also link to Lisa's blog from there as well. And we'll see you next month.